Good morning and welcome to the big story right here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. My name is Elizabeth Musa. There's been a growing tension and wave of agitation in Ghana, with some locals calling for Nigerians to go back home. Now, in a protest which broke out on the 29th of July, dozens of Ghanaians took to the streets in the protest tagged Nigerians Must Go, demanding the expulsion of Nigerians over allegations of rising crime, including prostitution, ritual killings, and economic dominance. Now, these tensions between Ghana and Nigeria aren't new. I mean, we're brothers and sisters, but the tone lately feels a little different. So what is fueling this movement, and what does this mean for West Africa's bigger goal of unity? Well, joining me this morning is Mr. Wilberforce Asare, head of news at Asaase Radio. He's here to give us a sense of the situation. Good morning, Wilberforce.
Good morning, and it's good. Thank you for having me.
Very good to have you this morning. So you are right there in the thick of it. Can you give us a sense of what's happening right now? What's the feeling on ground in Ghana right now? Is this just noise, or is this something deeper? I mean, as the media, we should set the agenda. So could you just give us a sense of what's happening right now?
Well, so Elizabeth, I think it's important to establish that Ghana and Nigeria are literally neighbors. If you look at it critically, Togo and Benin separates Ghana from Nigeria, and that those two countries, in terms of their borderline space, very little. And so Ghana considers Nigeria as a direct neighbor, and most of the things that we do together, we do as a sub-region, which is the ECOWAS sub-region. Usually, it is Ghana and Nigeria that is able to champion most of the activities in the West African sub-region. Now, based on that foundation, let me establish that the recent disturbances that you heard between Ghana and Nigerians was as a result of some development that came up with regard to one gentleman who refers himself as the Igbo king in the Republic of Ghana. And that he attempted to buy certain parcels of land for purposes of building something called Igbo community or Igbo land. Now, it is that development that brought into sharp focus the issue about Nigerians living in Ghana. Now, if you put that issue aside, I can tell you on authority that Nigerians and Ghanaians have been living side by side together in the Greater Accra region, particularly, which is the capital of Accra, and there has been no issues. In fact, there are places in the Greater Accra region, places in East Legon, places in Jowuru, where if you go, there are whole communities for Nigerians. In fact, we have a place in Accra called Lagos Town. And Lagos Town is named that way because most of the people who live in those areas came from Lagos, Nigeria, where you are, and settled in Accra, and we have been living very peaceful with them. So I can tell you that some of the things that we heard or saw in recent past were quote-unquote noises that were fueled by the activities of one particular person, which was not managed properly. Besides that, it is important and perhaps instructive to note that Ghanaians and Nigerians have lived very peacefully with each other. We continue to live very peacefully with each other within our country. And we know of Ghanaians who live in Nigeria, in Abuja and in Lagos, and they are living very peacefully with their Nigerian counterparts in Abuja and in Lagos and in other places of Nigeria. And so to end this first part of my submission, I would like to emphasize that indeed there were some disturbances which were largely fueled by one person's attempt to do something that did not go through the proper processes. And that is what fueled the recent disruptions. Let me end this part of the conversation by telling you that if you come to Greater Accra region, there's a place called Kwame Nkrumah Circle. If you go to the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, there's a place called Tiptoe Lane. In the Tiptoe Lane, you have Nigerian traders trading alongside Ghanaian traders.
Right.
and mostly in mobile phone and technology or technological gadgets. I have gone to the tiptoe lane to buy stuff before, and there are times that you want something from a Ghanaian, he doesn't have it, he will go to a Nigerian shop and get it. There are times that you want something from a Nigerian shop, he doesn't have it, he will go to a Ghanaian shop and get it. That is the kind of existence that is prevailing in Ghana as far as Nigerians are concerned, and we need to emphasize that point.
All right. I hear you when you say we've had a long-standing relationship. I mean, for the longest time, we've had a long-standing relationship. You did also mention that we're like brothers and sisters. I mean, we happen to be those brothers and sisters. We have a lot in common, but still we have a lot of differences. I mean, there's been a time where it was there was a little bit of a Nigeria must go sometime in about 1969, and then in 1983 we saw during Shehu Shagari's time we had seen something like a Ghana must go. So I must say that there've been times of tension between both countries, but some of the things that we've seen, some of the placards we've seen things like pointing towards rising crime, prostitution, ritual killings, and perhaps economic dominance. What are you going to say about that as well? Are you saying that none of those things are true in any way and all is well?
Okay, so largely Nigerians are seen as more aggressive than Ghanaians.
Right.
And so Nigerians are aggressive in business endeavors. They are aggressive in their manner in which they do things, both in the business world, even in the social world. And we see all of that every now and then. And so I told you earlier on that if you go to Tiptoe Lane, right, there are Nigerian traders and there are Ghanaian traders. The Nigerian traders are largely very aggressive, and it has a telling on the Ghanaian traders who are not as aggressive as the Nigerians. In fact, I think that in terms of trading at Tiptoe Lane, the Nigerian aggressiveness has influenced Ghanaians so much that if you go to the Tiptoe Lane right now, a lot of the Ghanaians are being aggressive as the Nigerians are. And it is helping with business, it's helping with competition. And I think on that score, it is healthy. But the issue of increase in crime and increase in ritual murders and all those things, there is no scientific or statistical basis to say that those things are happening because there are Nigerians in Ghana. There is no scientific or statistical basis to make those claims. And that is because ritual killings and all those stealing and robbery has happened and has been happening in Ghana ever since. In fact, if you check with the Ghana Police Service, you would notice that when people are arrested for robbery and what have you, the first thing you do is to check the name of the person. The name of the person will tell you which part of Ghana the person comes from or which part of Africa the person comes from. The statistical basis, the statistical evidence that is there to show is that there have been arrests in Ghana where the perpetrators were of Nigerian descent or from Togo or from Benin, some even from Ivory Coast and some from Burkina Faso. But majority of the people who are arrested for robberies and what have you are most often than not indigents of Ghana. And so there is no statistical foundation to stand on to make claims that Nigerians who are living in Ghana are the ones perpetrating crimes against Ghanaians. There's no foundation. And so I agree that there's been some sort of an increase in ritual murders and attacks and killings and robberies in recent time, particularly the last 6 months since the current government came into office. But there is no scientific basis, as I have said, to attribute those happenings to Nigerians alone or to Ghanaians alone, or for that matter, to.
All right, let's speak on the role of the media in public discourse right now, especially with respect to this conversation we're having, Nigeria, Ghana. What role have the media and public discourse in Ghana played? Are we seeing fair reporting, or are we seeing emotions being stirred continuously? I think we lost Mr. Asare for a bit. We'll go on a quick break and we'll be right back. Just before we went on a quick break, we were speaking with the head of news at Asaase Radio in Ghana. We're speaking on the recent protest and Ghanaians protest against Nigerians in Ghana. We're talking about what really is the sense of things happening right now. And I was asking a question just before we went on the break. I was talking about the role that the media has played in Ghana, if we're seeing fair reporting or if emotions are being stirred right now.
Well, yes. So I think that in terms of media reportage, following the video that came into mainstream media and social media about the gentleman I was talking about, his name is Chukwude Jude Ahinnetu. I hope I got the name pronunciation right. He's a Nigerian national.
You tried.
And he's self-proclaimed traditional leader of Igbo state in Accra. And it is his videos that received those kind of propagation on social media here in Ghana and also on mainstream media, which necessitated the protests that we saw. But like I have emphasized previously when I was making my submissions, really, this was an incident that occurred with one person. And it is the media coverage that gave it the mileage for the protest that you saw. Since the protest till date, there's been no clash or attack on any Nigerian living in Ghana. Ghanaians are not like that. Ghanaians do not attack their fellow neighbors, whether they are indigenous or non-indigenous. And so there is no such record of anybody attacking a Nigerian living and working in Ghana. I can tell you for a fact that there are Nigerian companies that are doing very well in Ghana, and they are working hand in hand with Ghanaian companies, especially in our banking sector. So Zenith Bank is originally from Nigeria, right, and they are working and doing very well in Ghana. The same as UBA, doing very well in Ghana, but their origins is from Nigeria. There are other companies, ShopRite, which is originally from South Africa. It is doing very well in Ghana, one of the biggest shopping centers in our city, but originally from South Africa. DSTV is providing service for us as it provides service for you in Nigeria, but it is originally from South Africa. And so really, those happenings that you saw were one-off happenings triggered by the instance of one person's actions and inactions, and it cannot be a complete reflection of the situation between Ghanaians and Nigerians in Ghana.
And speaking from your own observation, how are Nigerians living in Ghana? How are they responding to all of this?
Well, so I can tell you that in different sectors of the Ghanaian economy, Nigerians are actively playing a role. For example, let's take education. If you go to our universities, there are whole Nigerian communities in most of our universities now, because your fellow countrymen, Nigerians, love to study in Ghana, love to be at the University of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, the University of Cape Coast, Central University, and several other universities in our country. And so if you take the educational sector alone, Nigerians are participating, and these are fee-paying students. They are not coming to depend on public funds. They bring money from Nigeria, pay huge sums of school fees, and get to study in our universities. If you go and ask university administrators, they'll tell you that Nigerians are contributing serious amounts of money to our universities, and they are keeping these universities running. I've already talked about the banking sector. I've talked about the telecommunications sector in terms of mobile phone accessories and all and what have you. And so, yes, I think from my standpoint that there is an effective relationship between Ghana and Nigeria, and it is to be encouraged based on the fact that, if not for anything at all, we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement Secretariat located in the Greater Accra region. This is a secretariat that is supposed to champion inter-Africa trade or intra-Africa trade. And so if Ghana decided to bid for the hosting of the AfTA Secretariat, the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement Secretariat, then it behoves on us to ensure that we are championing free trade between African countries, particularly within the sub-region of West Africa, because that is where it starts from. If we are not able to do it between those of us in West Africa, how is it possible for us, Ghana, to go and trade with Kenya, which is in eastern of Africa? Or how is it possible for Nigeria to go and trade with South Africa, which is in southern of Africa? And so really, even just because of the fact that we are hosting the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat alone is enough reason to discard any attempt to vilify any national from any other part of Africa. In fact, let me end by saying that we are pushing and asking that within the African continent, all Africans should be able to travel intra-Africa without visa barriers. If you go to Europe, you can travel within the European Union without any barriers. If I went to the Netherlands a few days ago, and I bought a mobile phone number in the Netherlands, I traveled to 6 other European countries, and I didn't have to change my SIM. As soon as I get into Belgium, my SIM changes and it works perfectly as if I'm in Amsterdam. As soon as I get to Paris, it works perfectly as if I bought the SIM card in Paris. That is where Africans want to get to. And if we want to get there, these skirmishes that come up on attacks on trade and differences should be discarded, because the Europeans have shown us the way. And if we Africans want to go that way, then we should be ready to discard all these things. If I buy a SIM card in Ghana, an MTN SIM card, and I come to Lagos where you are, my SIM card, MTN SIM card will not work on MTN network in Lagos. I have to buy a new SIM card in Lagos. How is that possible?
Those are very, very deep submissions from you, and very good way to ease the tension. But, that brings me to my next question, in terms of what leaders on both sides, I mean, Nigerian leaders and Ghanaian leaders, the media, the government, the citizens, what really should we be doing right now to ease the tension and avoid maybe even a bigger fallout? Because I understand that right now the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Bianca Ojukwu, had come to Ghana sometime last week. I don't know if she's still there right now, but what really should we be doing right now to ease the tension?
Okay, so that's a very good question. And the reason why I say it's a good question is because diplomacy is always the starting point for engagement between citizens of different countries. If you see your president exchanging pleasantries with the president of another country, it is enough reason for you to also, at your level, exchange pleasantries with your colleagues. So I am a media person, you are a media person. We are exchanging pleasantries today on your media network. And it is because I have seen the president of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, exchanging pleasantries with your president, President Tinubu. In fact, during the inauguration of President Mahama as president some 7 months ago, President Tinubu was the special guest of honor. And that alone should tell you the relationship that exists between Ghana and Nigeria. The Ghanaian president could have chosen any other president within the sub-region to be the special guest, but he chose the president of Nigeria. And so, yes, our leaders have a duty, and I think they have been carrying out that responsibility at the diplomatic level. But they also have a responsibility at their rhetoric level. That is when they are communicating to their citizenry, to let them know that we are neighbors, we are partners, we are supposed to be working together for the greater good of the West African sub-region, and for that matter, for the African region. And so we need our leaders to make those commitments and not to whip up sentiments within their respective countries for the sake of propaganda or for the sake of cheap political points. So I agree with you that there is a responsibility squarely on the tables of our leaders. They have been doing it at the diplomatic level, but I think that they need to carry it on to the rhetoric level, where we hear them say it visibly in their communications to their people right within their local communities. That is a very important responsibility that the African leaders must champion. I also think that one of the important things that needs to be done, and I've seen that is being done, and that is security collaboration between the security architecture on the continent. And so the Chief of Defense Staff in Ghana should have a direct communication with the Chief of Defense Staff in Nigeria, or in Togo, or in Benin, or in Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, in Guinea, and everywhere. Because when there is security collaboration, it ensures cohesion within the sub-region. And that is the reason why in Europe, it always appears to be peaceful. The reason is because the security of Sweden is as important to the security of the Netherlands as it is important to the security of Paris, as it is important to the security of Switzerland. So in the European region, security is integrated. And if you touch one, you have touched all. If you touch any part of Europe, the whole of Europe wakes up and wants to fight you. And that is why we've seen the kind of response that Vladimir Putin has had in the war that he started in Ukraine. So I'm just talking about the leaders at their level, but I also think that in terms of security, the security collaboration between the security architecture on the continent is extremely important to ensure this kind of cohesion that we all want within the sub-region, which is ECOWAS, and also the rest of the African continent.
I was actually going to talk about ECOWAS right now, and I'm happy that you did mention it. Just very quickly, what really should ECOWAS be doing at this same time?
Well, so ECOWAS, the name says it all, Economic Community of West African States.
We were speaking with Mr. Wilberforce Asare, he's the head of news at the Asaase radio, and we're speaking all about West African unity and the anti-Nigerian sentiment which have been perceived to build up in Ghana in light of the recent Nigeria-Ghana protests. Protests against Nigerians in Ghana, but obviously from the conversations we're having, it might have just been blown out of proportion on the part of the media, and more importantly, we need to keep speaking for diplomacy and speaking for Nigerians to unite and Africans to unite. Nigeria, Ghana, we're brothers and sisters, so we should actually unite and not divide ourselves along any lines of corruption or negative statements. But we're speaking with Mr. Wilberforce Asare. I'm not sure we have him right now, but if you don't have him, that's where we wrap it up this morning on The Big Story, right here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Up next is the social listening segment. Do stay with us.